Johnson heads to the pocket. Layup. Johnson. Good.
All right, welcome everybody. Happy New Year to you and yours as we get ready for Talkin Sports with Chris Powers 2025. We're seen, of course, 5 times a week, Tuesdays at 11 a.m., Thursdays at 11 a.m. and 7 p.m., Fridays at 9 p.m., and Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. Seen in, of course, the big metro areas, Baton Rouge, of course, New Orleans and Lafayette. Almost 2 million people watch this on Cox Cable. We're glad to have you here. We have great sponsors like TJ Ribs and attorney Tony Clayton. We've got lots to talk about today, college football and the playoffs. We've also got basketball to talk about. We'll talk about the Saints as well and the coaching search and a whole lot more. But we start with college football and the playoffs, of course, going on right now. Strength of schedule, I think, is huge. As we get ready to play the national championship game next week, there's one thing that needs to be said here is they need to do some really fine-tuning of the 12-team playoff. And I don't think there's – word is that New Orleans is going to get the 2028 game, national championship game, and by then there could be 16 teams. In the contract, it's stated it could be 16 teams. I don't think that there's 16 good enough teams to be in there. I didn't think 12 enough teams are good enough to be in there. One examples, out of the 12 seeds, Clemson was 54th in strength of schedule. SMU at 11th seed was 64th. Indiana, the 10th seed, was 67. 9th was Tennessee. They were 49th strength of schedule. Ohio State, the 8th seed, was 23rd strength of schedule. Notre Dame, the 7th seed, 57th strength of schedule. They're in the national championship along with Ohio State. Penn State was 6th seed. They are 38th in strength of schedule. Number 5th seed, Texas, 15th seed. Arizona State was the 4th seed. They were 35th in strength of schedule. Boise State, 3rd seed. They were 78th. 2nd seed, Georgia, was the most, highest at 10th. And Oregon, the number 1 seed, 42nd when it comes to strength of schedule. And this has got to get better because obviously the first rounds were a total wash. They were bad. You just can't have that. They were just a total wash on this. And they were boring TV. The playoffs in round 1 took on the NFL regular season games. It was the second to last week of the regular season games of the NFL, and the NFL killed them in the ratings. Killed them. Wasn't even close. No cigar. Sorry, bye. Gone. Wasn't even close. So that's something that college football, the playoff committee, has to change. They've got to add strength of schedule in it, and that would be a lot better. Do I think like Alabama should have been in it? We all seen what happened in the bowl game. No, I don't think Alabama should have been in it. Ole Miss kept griping and complaining they weren't in it. They lost 3 games. Shut up. So in a way, I don't know how we're going to get the strength of schedules and the rankings to where they can be the 12 teams because we all know that Indiana shouldn't have been in there. Tennessee was really weak, even though I think they had a shot to be in there. They should have been in there. But Arizona State played very well. I'll give them that. Boise State, again, I think those things have to be looked at. They have to be fixed. And a lot of people are saying that the Arizona States or whatever should not be in the top 4. Well, winning a championship should carry some deal on that. So maybe, yes, they can be in the 4th seed in the first round bye. But and staying on the strength of schedule, there's a lot of people now talking about the Big Ten has passed the SEC up, and it's a very good chance that the Big Ten is going to win their 2nd straight national championship. Does that make them the best conference between the thing? Come on, give me a break. It's not even close. Michigan now had the toughest schedule of all teams in all of college football, had the toughest schedule for 2024. SEC had 7 out of the top 10 hardest schedules. Big Ten had 3. LSU was 7th as the toughest schedule, period. And Mississippi State was the toughest in the SEC. They were the 2nd hardest schedule of the SEC. So I think that strength of schedule is big. And if we're going to go by strength of schedules here, the SEC is still a tougher team. Let me ask you a question. Would you rather go play at Minnesota at a home game, in a Big Ten game, or go play at Auburn in an SEC game? I'm going to Minnesota every day of the week, twice on Sunday. That's just not even close. Another problem is seeding. The seeding is a problem. The first round, as we mentioned, was a joke. Round 2 got much better. But they need to do like the National Football League. They need to reseed. There's no reason why an Oregon, number 1 in the nation, undefeated, should play an 8th or 9th seed. Only if, now, the way that works out, it would have worked out that same way. They would have played Ohio State because Ohio State was the 8th seed. But let's say, for instance, an 11th seed wins or a 10th seed would win. Then they should play the number 1 seed. Because when you're 8 or 9, those two teams are close together. Those are pretty good teams. Even in college basketball, 8 and 9, you don't know who's going to win. I wouldn't want to go to Vegas on one of those. So that's why in that same situation, I think they need to reseed. No question. I think the time off needs to be shorter. Why in college football they think that they've got to go from after the conference championship, got to play 2 weeks or a month later? What is that about? Now, I know there's – wait a minute. There's a college involved, right? Final examinations. Oh, we're really thinking about college now? Wait a minute. With the NIL and transfer portal, we don't think about college. It's not college. It's semi-pro sports now. Come on. We don't think about that. So I think time off needs to be a little shorter. Michigan went last year from December the 2nd for the Big Ten championship game to play the first-round playoff game against Alabama on January the 1st. So right at almost a month. They were off about a month. Can you imagine the National Football League doing that? A month before you play a game? That's crazy. Then a week later, the national championship. Now, this year, Georgia went from December 7th for the SEC championship to January 2nd before they played in round 2. Almost a month. That, to me, needs to be condensed down. I think that needs to be condensed down. Every team should be in a conference. I agree with Coach Franklin at Penn State when he said that in the press conference before the Orange Bowl. Every team needs to be in a conference. Notre Dame has no conference games and gets to keep all the money. So get this, Marty. I mean, I know you're a multimillionaire on this. You know, you're multimillionaire. So LSU, or no, let's even go back to Ohio State. So Ohio State has to take their money they're getting for the playoffs and put in the Big Ten kitty. And it's equal sharing, revenue sharing all across the Big Ten. Notre Dame gets to keep the entire $20 million. The entire $20 million Notre Dame. Now, who's dumb on this? Notre Dame ain't dumb. They're not getting in a conference. Until College Football Playoff Committee makes them get in a conference, they're not going to get in a conference. Because you know why? Not only because of the playoff money, but because of the NBC money. You'll never see Notre Dame say, I want to go to a conference, because they would have to revenue share that NBC money. And conference-wise, through Big Ten, you know, they do have a contract with NBC. One of the contracts is with NBC, but they would have to share that money. Notre Dame's not going to do that. Now, Notre Dame does what other schools, most schools don't do. They put most of that money back into education and instead of putting it into the football team. That's why Brian Kelly left, because they didn't want to improve facilities. And that's one of the reasons Brian Kelly did leave. So that's a big deal. Think about that. Notre Dame gets all $20 million like no other team in the college football playoff does. That's not right. And they don't play the 8 or 9 conference games that other conferences do. They don't play a conference championship. That's got to change, man. But you know what? It's never going to change. They're never going to say that to Notre Dame. You got to be in a conference to participate in the playoffs. Never going to do it. Watch what I'm telling you. They will never, never do that. Also, something that is weird, how about rules are different from SEC to other college football? Prime example, Georgia complained that in the SEC you can't take your punt team off the field and put your offense on the field. They did that in that game, and Georgia was called offsides in the Sugar Bowl. Now, I know they shouldn't have jumped offsides. He said that. But in the SEC, you can't do that. Now, in pro football, you can, and in college football, you can. But in the SEC, you can't do that. You can't have your punting team on and then rush them all off the field and then bring in your offense and go for it on 4th down and 1. And with that, Georgia jumped off sides. Notre Dame gets a quick first down. How about affordability? Now, nobody makes Marty money, but affordability is unbelievable. How about this? How can fans keep paying for different bowl games? So let's say round 1, if you're at Notre Dame, the price of tickets to go to a game, this is Notre Dame fans, $436 to $5,000 for one ticket. That's how much it was for your home game. Round 2, the Sugar Bowl. The tickets are $312 to $1,500. Airfare average about $900 for two people to New Orleans from Chicago's O'Hare Airport. And that's for two adults, plus hotels, let's say about $750 when you get everything from all your fees. Your New Orleans has one of the highest hotel-motel taxes there is. And so with all that, let's say $750 for like 3 days. And food, $300. Then you go to the Miami. Tickets are anywhere from $300 to $1,700, plus airfare, $900 again. Hotel, $750 again, we'll do that. Food, $300. Grand total for all of that, and that's not including Atlanta, where they're going to Atlanta now. That's $4,948 for those 3 games right there. $4,948. And that's, again, not including Atlanta, which they'll be in Atlanta on Monday for the national championship. Absolutely unbelievable. Jonathan, your take on this. You know what kind of shocked me was that the rules are different when Georgia – Coach Kirby Smart said that, where the rules are different in the SEC. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that is nuts, Chris. And I did see the press conference, and, yeah, it was a discrepancy about running all 11 off the field with the punter included and get all 11 offensive back. Georgia did go outside, but that play really didn't dictate that game. Of course, there was a tragedy New Year's Eve, which pushed that game back a day. So don't forget to mention you also had to spend more money in New Orleans for the extra day. I don't know who the football games you're going to with, but I'm not making it a weekend for $300 on food and beverage, Chris. I'm having a few libations at the game. Beers at $12.50 at the least at the Superdome. So, crazy expensive. I agree with what you said about the reseeding of the playoffs. It was kind of crazy how Oregon did have to play Ohio State, who was the 8th seed, and it would have been that way regardless. Time off. I mean, it's kind of crazy how the 1 through 4 seeds all lost after having that first round bye. Also agree that teams like Indiana, SMU really didn't have a real stake to be in the playoffs, but their records said otherwise, and they're playing good football at the end. And granted, the committee is just human beings that are seen it with the eye test, and they try to match up these games the best they can. But the first round was all pretty much blowouts, and they had some Vegas refereeing for the second round. And then the third round was good teams, and there was a lot of fallout for the Notre Dame fans over the internet about, the best thing that happened to Notre Dame was Brian Kelly going to LSU. Look, Brian Kelly took Notre Dame to this exact spot they're in right now.
Exactly.
They didn't win a national championship, but it's not uncharted territory for Notre Dame. I do like Marcus Freeman. I know the Notre Dame players absolutely love playing for him. He's a good young head coach, family man, going to set good scruples for these young men that really are student athletes. Even though it is semi-pro ball, everybody's making money now to play these college football games, but so much money involved, not only Notre Dame. They must have took notes from the Vatican. I mean, all the money just comes to us, like you said. We're not going to share it in a conference. You get to handpick your schedule. There's no conference championship. Why would you go join a conference?
Yeah.
I agree, Chris. Lots to talk about with this playoff, how it worked out, how it played out. This is all brand new. We really didn't know how it was going to go until we got through it as a whole, college football world. For the first time, I'll take it. A 12-team playoff, it added a lot more drama to the end of the season. Mm-hmm. Obviously, would have liked LSU to be in that number. But look, next year, Brian Kelly loaded up in the transfer portal, so there's going to be a lot of pressure. LSU needs to go 10-2 to get to the playoffs. I think 10-2 in the SEC will get you there, no doubt in this day and age. But the Big Ten being equal or surpassing the SEC is laughable.
Yeah.
They wanted to fire Ryan Day early this season because he lost to Michigan 4 years in a row. Now the man's in the national championship. So I'm happy for Ryan Day. Prove the naysayers wrong. Ohio State, I'm taking Ohio State over the Irish. Don't know the score yet, but I've enjoyed these college football playoffs, Chris. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I did too. And the one thing I'll say also too is that Notre Dame fans are happy that they let Brian Kelly's gone. We're happy. No, they're not. They've been mad ever since he's been gone. They have been ticked off ever since he's been gone. But now you want to change your tune and what have you. And for LSU fans to be siding with Notre Dame fans, shame on you.
Right. It's almost like that jilted lover syndrome that LSU fans had with Nick Saban. And they were just like, clamoring for Nick Saban until Les Miles was able to win a championship. Now Les Miles is our guy. We're all eating grass on the sideline. So, look, winning changes a lot of things. Like I said, Tons of money in the transfer portal. LSU is the #1 transfer portal class, according to 247 Sports, in the 24-25 opening. So, yeah, Brian Kelly's going to be on the hot seat. Need to have some very comfortable wins early in next season. Start with that first week, Chris. Got to get a start in week 1. Absolutely must win. And
that first month is going to be, because we got to play Ole Miss, is going to be atrocious. And not only that, so what are your thoughts of moving to 16-team playoff? And they said it's in the contract already. It's in the contract, and they're negotiating currently right now with the Sugar Bowl to have the 2028 National Championship in New Orleans in the Superdome. So what are your thoughts on that? First, being back in the Dome, that'd be great for that. And secondly, going to 16-team playoffs.
Well, back in the Dome would be great. Obviously, the city of New Orleans has spent a lot of money on infrastructure, repairing the roads, painting old buildings, trying to fix up the plight of city. Some of it was still left from Katrina, so it needed to be done, but the Super Bowl did give the city an excuse to dump a lot of money into the infrastructure. So the city looks nice. They're trying to improve a lot of things. The tourism obviously helps all the shops and the stores and the bars and the restaurants down at Fresh Square, not to mention the hotels that sell out, not from only the fans of the two teams, but people flock to the French Court, to the city of New Orleans, just for the experience and for the culture. And to have a 16-team playoff, why not 24? I mean, why not expand it, include the entire SEC and then the top 12 from the rest of the conferences across college football? And that would be entertaining. And that would finally, put to rest, like, which is the most power conference? Because, did the SEC get kind of beat up in the bowl season this year? That's going to happen. You're going to drop a game when half of your team is declaring for the NFL. You're missing your starting quarterback. You're missing your 2 starting wide receivers. The SEC, that happens normally, regularly. Every season, an SEC head coach is planning to lose some of his key players for the bowl game. So I never really put in a whole lot of stock into those bowl games except for the playoffs this year. Because, look, it's enjoyable for the coaches. It's good for the program. It's a good last game for the kids, but they really mean nothing. Your eyes are set on the next stage in the NFL. So, I have no problem expanding to 16 teams, and I don't think you should stop at 16. If this works, if you can incorporate some more cities, get it Arizona working, get it a couple more sites where you can host these games, spread around the money, spread around the tourism dollars, I have no problem with it.
I'm glad you brought up about that and the bowl game with players not eligible, because we've not only seen it in bowl games, now we're seeing it in the playoffs, which is shocking. That's another problem I forgot to put on here, too, is they've got to change the transfer portal. They have to change that window for the transfer portal. To me, I think recruiting should be in February, and I think the transfer portal should be in February or after the national championship game. I really, really do. I think but college football is not run by the NCAA when it comes to playoffs and bowl games. They don't run that. A lot of people don't understand that. It goes back to Supreme Court ruling in the 1980s. They don't run that. This is all run by the College Football Playoff Committee. And they run the bowls and they run all of that stuff. So that's how and they got tie-ins for conferences and what have you. But at the same time, when you've got players that you're in the college football playoffs, and you got players leaving because of the transfer portal, that's crazy. You don't see that anywhere else in any other sport, period. But you don't see that even in the Final Four. Can you see a player in the Final Four saying, I got to go, transfer portal, I got to get out of here? That's crazy. So they need to change that massively. But will college football align with college football playoffs? Will the NCAA align with the College Football Playoff Committee to change this? I doubt they will. Word is now NCAA is thinking about giving full control to the College Football Playoff and just saying to hell with it. Y'all go, we're going to handle the UL Lafayette, some mid-major markets and stuff like that, mid-major teams and all that. Also, they're talking about doing 5 years of eligibility for athletes. That's something they're also contemplating. But they need to change those transfer portal windows, and they need to change the landscape of all the way college football is doing, including NIL. I think they need to do it. They need to cap it. But will things go onto the table anyway after that? I don't know. But those are things that need to be changed, in my opinion, for college sports. Now, we're going to talk coming up next right here about Notre Dame and Ohio State, the college football national championship in Atlanta. We'll talk about that when we return. We're talking sports with me, Chris Powers, Jonathan here. Marnie is in the house. We'll do that coming right here as we continue right here on Pelican Sports TV.
We're a nation of hardworking Americans, and businesses will always be the lifeline of this great country. As a business owner, you understand the importance of your reputation. In times of uncertainty, you need a real lawyer who's serious about protecting you and your business. You need a problem solver. You need the law firm of Clayton and Fouger. Tony Clayton is a proven trial lawyer. He'll defend you and your business to the fullest extent of the law. Protect your investment and call the law firm of Clayton and Fouger today.
You can't smell it, but you can almost taste it. And whether it's for a family get-together or a game day feast, having Manda in the mix always sounds good. For 3 generations, their quality meats and original seasonings have made Manda a Louisiana legend and made their family sausage Louisiana's family sausage. Manda Fine Meats, the flavor says it all.
Live and play on the fairway at Greystone Golf and Country Club, a serene, challenging golf destination located in Denham Springs. For tee times and membership opportunities, go to GreystoneCountryClub.com.
If you're a wing lover like me, you already know where the best and biggest wings in Baton Rouge are. TJ Ribs on Acadia and I-10. But did you know they also provide some of the best catering in town? Yeah. Their catering packages are custom built for parties and tailgates and overflowing with the tastiest barbecue you can find. Whether you go with the MVP package, the Heisman, or the Natty, you can't go wrong with TJ Ribs because it's not just jumbo wings. They serve up truly tender beef brisket, perfectly roasted pulled pork, and smoky fall-off-the-bone baby back ribs. Don't forget the savory sausage and chopped beef. Come on down to TJ Ribs on Acadian and I-10, proud sponsors of the LSU Tigers and the Southern University Jaguars.
All right, welcome back, everybody, as we're talking sports with me, Chris Powers. National championship game is set. It is going to be the first one for the 12-team playoffs. It's going to be in Atlanta, the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, Monday night. How about this? How you got on Monday, Marty, you got to look out for this. You got Monday, you got Martin Luther King Day, you got Inauguration Day with President Trump, and you have the College Football National Championship, all on Monday. And on Tuesday, get ready for this, Baton Rouge could get as much as 2 inches of snow in Baton Rouge. How crazy is that? All right, how hell froze over. How crazy is that? Yeah, that's right. There is a big storm system coming in this area. Now, the last one was supposed to go further south, maybe to Alexandria, but not, as far as us. But for this one, we're expecting low temperature next Tuesday of 26 degrees with a possibility there's a snow flurry next to the forecast. And with that being said, they're saying now it could be as much as 2 inches of snow in the Baton Rouge area. Don't know if that's going to happen because it's a week away. We all know how Louisiana weather is, but you're just going to have to watch for that. But whatever, the national championship game on that Monday before the big cold day, Ohio State versus Notre Dame. Vegas don't like this one at all. Vegas has got Ohio State by 8 points in this game as we're even airtime here. ESPN has Ohio State winning by 55.4%, Notre Dame at 44.6%. As you look at it, on paper, it's not even close. Notre Dame is not even close, but get this now. Get this. Jonathan, this is crazy. I don't know if you know this. The 2 biggest fan bases in college football, Ohio State with over 11 million, Notre Dame with over 8 million. So the ratings are going to be big time for ESPN on Monday night.
I did not know that about the fan bases, Chris, but yeah, 2 teams that are playing really good football right now. I'll tell you that. Defense for Notre Dame is going to have a tough task against the Ohio State offense led by those 2 dynamic running backs out the backfield. Of course, saw a tweet that's pretty cool. Eli Manning screenshotted a text from his dad that said something like Riley Leonard and Will Howard were actually roommates at the Manning Passing Academy a few years back. So, that's pretty cool, Chris. And, look, on paper, I agree. I don't think Notre Dame really has a shot in this game, but been playing really good defense. They get after the quarterback, and everybody can have a bad game. So if Will Howard comes out, actually lays an egg, and had to rely on that running game entirely. Notre Dame has a stout front seven. So, look, Vegas seldomly will give an 8-point spread unless they're pretty confident who's going to win the game. So you have to take that with a grain of salt. But I'm taking the Buckeyes. Can't hear from any more Irish fans out there about Brian Kelly. So just let this season end with a loss for the Notre Dame Irish, please.
Right. No question about that. As far as LSU goes, they are 11th in fan base. This study was done about in 2022. They have almost 6 million fans, and they're right ahead of Georgia, shockingly enough. Georgia right behind LSU at number 12. Florida's ahead of LSU. They're in the top 10. Alabama's in the top 10 as well, and I think Tennessee's in the top 10 as well. But when you come back to this game, Ohio State versus Notre Dame, it says 6:30 kickoff, but what time will it kick off? Because we know ESPN likes to drag on their pregame show. Howard for Ohio State has played well. He didn't look good in that game, that we just had. That was an unbelievable game. Ohio State and the Buckeyes, just incredible game that we saw on this week to see that game. But Howard has, getting ready for 3,700, almost 3,800 yards he's passed this season, 33 touchdowns and only 10 picks. Leonard for Notre Dame, I don't think as is good. He has 2,600. He can run the ball, though. He is a very good runner. He has 19 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. In rushing yards, Henderson is the big one for Ohio State. Look out, he has 967 yards. But Love and is expected to play in this game. You know, he's been banged up a little bit. He has 1,121 yards on 17 touchdowns. So on paper, when you look at the last 5 opponents now, Notre Dame has won all 5 of those. They've won over 5 of those games. They haven't lost since they lost to Northern Illinois. And Ohio State, obviously the only loss they had was against Michigan when they got beat by Michigan 13-10. So I think Ohio State's going to, and again, like you just said, everyone's saying, hey, Brian Kelly never took us this far because there was no playoffs when, that happened. They went to the national championship and took on Alabama and got waxed in that game. Yep. And it's going to be in the same thing, I think, in this one. I don't know if it'll be as bad of a score, but I do think Ohio State's going to walk the floor with Notre Dame, I think, in this game, Jonathan. I think it'll be over 8 points. I'm looking for Ohio State to win by double digits in this game.
Yeah, and really, you didn't even mention Jeremiah Smith, the dynamic receiver for Ohio State. He's probably going to be the top receiver next year in college football. So, yeah, Coach Ryan Day, a lot to prove. We talked about the naysayers early in the season, wanted to fire him after they lost to 4 straight to Michigan. So, yeah, this team's hungry. They love Ryan Day. As soon as they lost that game, they saw all the the news about it and how the coaches on the hot seat. They took responsibility and they turned it on. Really left no doubt against Texas. Quentin Ewers was not playing his best football. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. But really manhandled Texas, a very talented Texas team, very deep, very big, very strong Texas team. So, the offense dynamic. Of course, Ohio State defense has always been pretty good. They had that kid, Jack Sawyer, who picked up the fumble and returned all the way for a touchdown against Quentin Ewers. Of course, that was Quentin Ewers' former team. And former roommate was Jack Sawyer. So got to feel happy for Jack Sawyer, a team guy, a guy that dreamed to go to Ohio State and was finally on the big spot, on the big stage, and comes up with a huge play. So, look, you have to be a pretty terrible, annoying fan base for me to cheer for Ohio State over the Fighting Irish, because the Ohio State has drove me nuts ever since 2007 when LSU played them in the Superdome for the national championship. They drove me nuts. OHIO, the Ohio State, they're insufferable. But the Notre Dame fans are that much worse.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And like I said, I think, and not to mention Ohio State usually starts fast, like they did against Tennessee and Oregon. In that game, they start fast where Notre Dame starts slow. I think it could be over by halftime. I really do. I think this could be a game over by halftime, could be another TCU game. I'm telling you right now, everybody's going to go crazy, and we're going to hear the talk quiet down about Brian Kelly after they lose the national championship by a monster mile. Now, again, this is a football. It's a sport. It's not one on paper. It's one on the football field. You never know what's going to happen. Is there a shot for Notre Dame to win it? Of course. But I don't think so. I really don't. I think Notre Dame gets waxed in this game massively, big time in this game. All right, we're going to turn our attention to basketball. When we come back, we're talking about area basketball teams. We'll start here in the Baton Rouge area and talk about what's going on with all of them, and also talk about the Pelicans coming up as well. Oh, we'll do that when we come back right here. So we're talking sports with Chris Powers right here on Pelican Sports TV.
If you're a wing lover like me, you already know where the best and biggest wings in Baton Rouge are. TJ Ribs on Acadian and I-10. But did you know they also provide some of the best catering in town? Yeah. Their catering packages are custom built for parties and tailgates and overflowing with the tastiest barbecue you can find. Whether you go with the MVP package, the Heisman, or the Natty, you can't go wrong with TJ Ribs because it's not just jumbo wings. They serve up truly tender beef brisket, perfectly roasted pulled pork, and smoky fall-off-the-bone baby back ribs. Don't forget the savory sausage and chopped beef. Come on down to TJ Ribs on Acadian and I-10, proud sponsors of the LSU Tigers and the Southern University Jaguars.
Live and play on the fairway at Greystone Golf and Country Club, a serene, challenging golf destination located in Denham Springs. For tee times and membership opportunities, go to greystonecountryclub.com.
You can't smell it, but you can almost taste it. And whether it's for a family get-together or a game day feast, having Manda in the mix always sounds good. For 3 generations, their quality meats and original seasonings have made Manda a Louisiana legend and made their family sausage Louisiana's family sausage. Manda Fine Meats, the flavor says it all.
We're a nation of hardworking Americans, and businesses will always be the lifeline of this great country. As a business owner, you understand the importance of your reputation. In times of uncertainty, you need a real lawyer who's serious about protecting you and your business. You need a problem solver. You need the law firm of Clayton and Fruget. Tony Clayton is a proven trial lawyer. He'll defend you and your business to the fullest extent of the law. Protect your investment and call the law firm of Clayton and Fruget today.
All right, basketball, of course, has gotten underway as far as conferences go, so it's time to talk about that. LSU men's team 11-5 overall. They're 0-3 in the SEC. 0-3. Cam Carter leads the team, averaging right at 17.1 points per ball game. He's doing his part. They have 4 players that average in double figures, but that, again, is pre-conference. That's not talking about conference play now. They're not playing as good as in conference play. They're hitting 48% of their shots, again, overall. But in the SEC, they had 41% against Ole Miss, 43% against Missouri, and 50% against Vanderbilt, and lost all 3 of those games. And then the next 4 games, they got to play Arkansas. Coach K is coming. He don't have his team down right now at Arkansas. Will he rebuild that team? More than likely he will. He's always a winner, Coach K is, but championship-wise, he just can't usually do it. Number 10, Texas A&M, they got to go to A&M. That's coming up, and also they go to Alabama, number 5 Alabama, and number 2 Auburn is going to be at the PMAC coming up this month. So they've got a very tough schedule. So my question for you is, Jonathan, how long will Matt McMahon stay? Will Coach McMahon stay on this team? Will it be another year, you think?
If you're asking my personal opinion, Chris, I really like Coach McMahon. I know he's a very nice guy. They love him around the campus. His players really like him. I know he wanted to build something really special at LSU. I thought he was the right guy to do that. Unfortunately, with either players or situations, it just hasn't worked out. The SEC is just so tough. Every basketball team in the SEC is full of studs. And sometimes the ball just doesn't bounce your way. So it's kind of been an accumulation of a lot of things where it hasn't really worked out. Unfortunately, with an 0-3 start in the SEC this season, it's just the results aren't there. In my opinion, if it doesn't turn around quick and in a hurry, at least in the SEC play, I do think this will be the last season for Coach McMahon at LSU. I
mean, they should have beat Missouri and Vanderbilt because now, at the end of this stretch that I just talked to you about those games, they're going to be 1-6. They could beat Arkansas. It's going to be at home because Arkansas, but we always struggle against Arkansas. Yep. They could be either 1-6 or 0-7 by the end of this month.
Yep. And truly, once the momentum starts going either positively or negatively, it's kind of hard to get out of that rut. And right now it's negative for LSU, really struggling to score the basketball, struggling to defend the three-pointer. things that Coach McMahon has really preached from the beginning, getting out in transition, defending the three-point line, really working the basketball, working the passes. It just hasn't worked out so far in SEC play. Of course, they went and scored 115 against Mississippi Valley State, so they're capable of scoring the basketball. But when things start heating up, when the game starts getting into the flow, sometimes LSU just goes ice cold and can't even manufacture buckets. Coupled with not being able to really defend a three-point line, it really puts you behind the 8 ball in a lot of games. And like I said, the SEC is just so tough in football and basketball that you're playing really, really exceptional teams each week.
And I have number 2 Auburn there. Auburn is now the number 1 team in the nation after Tennessee lost last week, by the way. So that's crazy right there. Let's talk about the LSU women's basketball team. They won last night. They're number 6 in the nation. May move up a little bit in the poll today. 19-0 on the season. They're 4-0 in the SEC. I still don't think this team is quite where they need to be, and that comes from the coaches.
Yep.
That comes from the coaches. They're not quite where they need to be. Anissa Moreau is breaking records. She's averaging 14.4 rebounds a game.
Yep.
She's the 8th player in NCAA history to score over 2,500 points and have over 1,500 rebounds. I'm sorry, better than Angel Reese. I don't know what everybody goes nuts over Angel Reese. I know that she got rebounds, that she scored underneath the goal. But I've seen so many of her shots down underneath the goal miss the whole goal.
Yeah.
I mean, and with the attitude that she has, I'm beginning to really not like her that much anymore. And she's doing it to herself. And the national media, I saw something today on that. The national media was getting on her and saying, this comparison with you trying to compare yourself to Caitlin Clark, shut up. Yeah. And this is even coming from, everybody, African-American journalists, is coming from white journalists. It doesn't matter. Stop putting race into this. You're not as good as you think you are. And you're not. You'd rather be on social media taking pictures of yourself and all of that stuff instead of getting in the gym. Caitlin Clark's already working for next season. Get out of here with that. But that's a different subject. But anyway, FloJo Johnson leads the team in scoring with 20 points a game and assists at 2.9. They play against Florida on Sunday, and get ready, the big game on Thursday on ESPN. Southern will be at South Carolina in that big game. Can they finally beat the Lady Gamecocks? It ought to be interesting. It ought to be a fun one. I think that's where they could get their first loss. I'd love to see them beat South Carolina. Until we do it, I just can't see it. But I think the Lady Tigers are good, but can they be better? Yes, I think they can, and I think hopefully as the season goes on, they will. Like I said, anytime you get a Mulkey team on, you know they're going to do very well.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead, John.
See, the basketball team is very disciplined for the women. They do stretch the floor. They work transition. Very deep. The deepest team that Kim Mulkey's ever had at LSU. They have 3 guards that can take the ball off the dribble and score in the paint. This girl they call KG, Kaylin Gilbert. You saw her hit the buzzer beater against Tennessee.
Yeah.
Ice in her veins. She can score the basketball. According to Kim Mulkey, she's one of the best scorers of the basketball that she's ever coached.
Wow.
And Coach Kim Mulkey's a Hall of Famer already, obviously. The skins are on the wall. She's coached a lot of great players. And KG, she comes off the bench, and Coach Kim Mulkey's not really concerned about the starter or the bench role. She's getting her best 7, 8 players. And truly, in years before now, it's really been the top 6, maybe 7. Samaya Smith went down last year. They were down to 6. They were down to 6. That's what they played each and every game. And your team just gets worn down that way. Michaela Williams really settle into that small forward role. Anissa Morrow, undersized for a power forward, but just works her body into the right positions, knows how to box out, so smart around a basketball goal. You mentioned Angel Reese, and I won't get too far into the Angel Reese story because I agree with you. She's doing it to herself, putting the target on her back for everybody to nitpick every little thing she does because she wants to be in the limelight. She wants that spotlight, so of course everybody's going to critique everything she does. But a lot, I'm not going to say most, but a lot of offensive rebounds that Angel Reese got last year or 2 years ago for LSU, were on Angel Reese misses. She was missing point-blank shots and getting her own rebound. Anissa Morrow is solid as they come on both ends of the basketball goal, both on defense in the paint and on offense. She knows how to work those post moves. Very underrated. Happy to see her get SEC Player of the Week because she absolutely deserves it.
No question about that. Morrow kind of reminds me, like you said, a small forward. She kind of reminds me of Ricky Blanton. Ricky could box people out big time in those 86 team where they made the Final Four. He could block people out big time, and that's what I loved about Ricky Blanton. How does Ricky Blanton get all those rebounds and what have you? Because he knew how to box out. And that's exactly what Morrow does as well. Very good point. Southern's men team. Jonathan, you were on courtside. You and Marnie were on courtside last night. Southern men's team goes 9-8 overall, 4-0 in SWAC play. They lead the conference right now. They're doing this without their best player, and Tijon Dumasi, by the way, who is on the bench. Jordan Johnson leads the team with 10.2 points per ball game. He is a guy, when he gets hitting on the three-point shots, it's over. He hit the three-point shot last night to start the ball game to go up 3-0 against Bethune-Cookman, and hit the three-point shot against FAMU on Saturday to start out Southern at 3-0. Southern went on a 9-0 run to easily win over Bethune-Cookman last night. The team's averaging about 76.6 points per ball game, 37 rebounds, about 38 rebounds a game, and they're averaging about 10.4 steals a game, which is pretty cool. Grambling is on Saturday at 5 o'clock at the F.G. Clark Activity Center. It's a doubleheader. We'll have that on the stream and on the radio network. Southern has only won 2 out of the last 10 games against Grambling State, but I think it's going to be 3 out of 11 because I do think they're going to win. Grambling is starting out 1-3. So I do think that Southern right now is playing well, but in the last few years, Jonathan, Southern men's basketball team gets off to a great start in the first part of the year, and by midway point, they start struggling going into the tournament, and that's something that needs to change. I think it could change this year. I'm seeing some different things I haven't seen in a long time. I think they even have a deeper bench than they normally have.
Right.
When do you see a men's basketball team where 5 players come off the field, court and 5 players come in?
Yeah.
That's like a hockey.
Yep.
That's like Coach Funchess does for women's basketball. It's absolutely crazy, but I think Southern men's team, they have a suffocating defense that is unbelievable, and they have a offense that's hitting. Shot well in the first half last night. In the second half, started out good, but then kind of slowed down a little bit. But I do think Southern men's basketball team has something this year without a huge big man. Thomas is good at the center spot, but he's small for a center as well. However, he's doing what he needs to do and getting some points, and sometimes gets in foul trouble a little bit. But other than that, I think they're a good basketball team, and I can't wait to see how far this team goes.
Yeah, and Chris, we're big fans of Coach Kevin Johnson. We did a show last year. Lots of energy. Guy that won a championship under Coach Greg Popovich for San Antonio Spurs. He's got the pedigree. This is only my second time getting a chance to watch the Jaguars last night against Bethune-Cookman. And, yeah, you mentioned Jordan Johnson, and in pregame warm-ups, he could not miss. The guy was throwing balls into the ocean. He could not miss. Drains his first 3 last night, and we're thinking, oh, it's going to be a long night for Bethune, but really didn't score outside of that first 3-point shot, went cold from beyond the arc, and Southern was able to keep on scoring the basketball. I will say this, that defense, when they're clicking on all cylinders, they are very active. You mentioned the 10.2 steals a game. I think they got that last night. They had tip passes. They had straight-out steals. It worked the transition game. I'm not sure. Now, it's not Thomas. It's a guy that comes in for Thomas. Very tall, very skinny guy. Can absolutely fly. I think he's got a name that's not familiar to me. It starts with a D. I'll look it up after we get done with this segment, Chris. But, happy for Coach KJ with the good start. Doing well in SWAC play so far. But can you kind of keep this momentum going, get Dumasi back? Once you get him back, he's kind of the straw that stirs the drink. Very comfortable with the ball. He can handle the basketball well for a point guard. He can also shoot it. Having to play. And, you mentioned it, Chris. I couldn't even count the number of subs that Coach KJ used last night. Every possession, they were bringing 2, 3, 4 players off the bench. And it was not that way for Bethune-Cookman. And you can kind of see that the Jaguars were way fresher come to fourth quarter, the end of the second period, second half, towards the end of that game. They were still running, playing defense, throwing lobs, lots of excitement. And I know Coach KJ, it's high-intensity practices, so he absolutely expects a lot out of this group.
Yeah, and it's a guy whose name is P.J. DeBall, number 24.
Yep, exactly.
His wingspan.
Huge.
Man, I could be by my truck in the front of this building, and he could reach out and grab me.
And then in warm-ups, he's almost hitting his head on the rim when he goes to dunk. Like the guy could almost fly. Incredible.
Yeah, and Andre Nunley last night with 6 steals. That guy is number 9.
Number 9, he was all over.
Jeez and Pete, that guy is just unbelievable when it comes to that, and it's just crazy. But like I said, they looked good last night, no question about that. Now, for the women, the Lady Jags, they have the problem they've had for a little while. They have nobody else to score. They're doing it by committee, and that could get in trouble in big games. Ania Gordine leads the team with 11.9 points per ball game, 4.9 rebounds. She leads the team in rebounds, and she leads the team in steals at 2.2 steals a game. Sanaya Reed can play bigger. She plays bigger than her 6-foot frame. She had a good game on Thursday against Bethune-Cookman. Didn't look as well in that game on Saturday against FAMU. So hopefully they can get some better players with that. They're tied for second in the SWAC right now at 3-1. Their next games, they got games against Jackson State coming up. That's on the 30th. They went 1-1 in the Texas 2 swing. They lost to Texas Southern. They beat Prairie View. Right now, Texas Southern's undefeated at 3-0. Jackson State also undefeated, but they got a new coach. Jackson State's not going to be that dominant team as they have been. A lot of their players left after their coach left. So I think that overall, that Southern has a chance to be, right there in the tournament play. They'll be in the mix.
Yep.
They'll be in the tournament, and this year the tournament moves to Atlanta, from Birmingham to Atlanta, so they'll be in that mix. All right, the New Orleans Pelicans, my goodness, 8-32 record. I don't know how to fix this. I really don't, Jonathan. Usually I consider an armchair quarterback this. I really don't know how to fix this at all, except for to clean house, get somebody in there who knows about basketball. I think they need to change it from everything from the president, general manager on. It's not working. It's never worked. Injury-wise, we talk about it. They must be on an Indian burial ground because always, every year, this team has got major injuries every single year, and I'm sick of it. How can I be a season ticket holder when this happens? I can't do it.
No, and I think that David Griffin, as an executive, does know what he's doing. Unfortunately, he got saddled in with Zion Williamson. For whatever reason, Zion has played 7 games this season. And then he gets suspended by the New Orleans Pelicans for being late to meetings.
Yeah.
You've already been questioned about your body, your shape, you're disciplined enough to stay off all the food in New Orleans, and now you're showing up late to meetings when the Pelicans rewarded your absenteeism with a max contract. I don't understand it, besides to say, look, Stephen A. Smith, sometimes he gets off on these crazy tangents, but I completely agree. Zion does not want to be in New Orleans, but why would any other team take him? Right. He's not available to play, and when he does show up, he's overweight, he gets hurt, or he's late. That's not the best availability. The best ability is availability. Zion's not available for whatever reason. You cannot build a team around a super franchise, super max contract guy who doesn't play 7 games this season and then show up late to meetings. I can't defend him anymore, Chris. Starting with blow it up, trade Zion, trade anybody you can. Try to rebuild and just make it entertaining so people might go to the games and spend a little money on a weekday to see some professional basketball players. These guys are supposed to be the best in the world. We can't even watch our starting 6 in New Orleans because they're always injured. It's just maddening. I feel bad for Willie Green because I do believe he can coach. He's unable to do it with the guys that he wants to coach. I mean, you're on 2-way contracts, 10-day contracts. They've been famous for it for now almost 6 years of the 10-day contract in New Orleans. So, where do you start? You blow it up. You trade Zion to whoever will take him. You say thanks for the memories. And look, the saddest part about it, just like Anthony Davis, Zion has superstar written all over him. When he plays, nobody can guard Zion. He's too big. He's too quick around the paint, and he can jump out the gym. If he had a decent mid-range game, he'd be unstoppable. Unfortunately, he's never been able to develop it because he cannot get on the court. Overweight, injured, or late, gets suspended. Whatever the reasons are, it's been a total disaster for Zion in New Orleans. Didn't understand why they rewarded him with a max contract. Now you're stuck with that for another 3 years. So it's time to trade, time to move on. Thanks for the memories.
Yeah, and they have potential to have 4 great superstars on this team and play very well. If you have 4 superstars on this team, you have an opportunity to play very well, but that's just not happening. And other than that, I can't watch the Pelicans. I think it's just horrible. And I think that finally, right now, Gail Benson, and it's not Gail. Gail doesn't know, probably what a 3-point distance shot is in the NBA. Yeah. But Gail Benson needs to hire someone. Dennis Lasha needs to say, okay, we need to rebuild on the Saints and we need to rebuild on the Pelicans. But she's got a very big job right now. She's got to tell somebody, whether it's Lasha or whoever it is, we got to get this out because right now our products stink. Both of our products right now stink. And this hire we're going to talk about coming up next with the Saints has to be right on. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I've been a Saints fan forever, since the inception, all right? I've been a Saints fan forever, and I was there for the 1-14 or 1-15 team. I was there when people were putting bags over their face. I still watched the Saints. Never missed a game. I've missed more Saints games in the last 3 years than I've ever missed in my life on TV because I'm tired of them losing. I guess I had that taste of them winning a Super Bowl and being in the playoffs every single year. My fandom is almost done. If they don't pick a right pick for this Saints thing, my fandom is over. I think my fandom is over for the Saints. I'll start pulling for Cincinnati or somebody else. I don't know because I'm telling you right now, I don't like the way this Pelicans and Saints are going. Gail Benson and Dennis Lauscha, Dennis Lauscha is the guy. Now, even if Gail Benson were to die, he's responsible for selling the football team. That's how big he is in the Gail Benson organization. He is huge. He is the guy right there. And he makes the calls. Something has to change on this right now. We'll talk about the Saints job coming up as we continue talking sports with Chris Powers right here on Pelican Sports TV.
You can't smell it, but you can almost taste it. And whether it's for a family get-together or a game day feast, having Manda in the mix always sounds good. For 3 generations, their quality meats and original seasonings have made Manda a Louisiana legend and made their family sausage Louisiana's family sausage. Manda Fine Meats, the flavor says it all.
We're a nation of hardworking Americans, and businesses will always be the lifeline of this great country. As a business owner, you understand the importance of your reputation. In times of uncertainty, you need a real lawyer who's serious about protecting you and your business. You need a problem solver. You need the law firm of Clayton and Fruget. Tony Clayton is a proven trial lawyer. He'll defend you and your business to the fullest extent of the law. Protect your investment and call the law firm of Clayton and Fruget today.
If you're a wing lover like me, you already know where the best and biggest wings in Baton Rouge are. TJ Ribs on Acadian and I-10. But did you know they also provide some of the best catering in town? Yeah. Their catering packages are custom built for parties and tailgates and overflowing with the tastiest barbecue you can find. Whether you go with the MVP package, the Heisman, or the Natty, you can't go wrong with TJ Ribs because it's not just jumbo wings. They serve up truly tender beef brisket, perfectly roasted pulled pork, and smoky fall-off-the-bone baby back ribs. Don't forget the savory sausage and chopped beef. Come on down to TJ Ribs on Acadian and I-10, proud sponsors of the LSU Tigers and the Southern University Jaguars.
Live and play on the fairway at Greystone Golf and Country Club, a serene, challenging golf destination located in Denham Springs. For tee times and membership opportunities, go to GreystoneCountryClub.com.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Of course, a lot of things have happened. We want to say, first of all, to our sponsors, all of our sponsors, thank you for supporting not only this show, but all of Pelican Sports TV. Hey, we're still on the air. We're doing that right. Great job for that. Speedy recovery to Allen. Allen has had several surgeries. Hopefully, he'll be back here in the saddle very, very soon. This show is seen over 5 times a week. We're seen in almost 2 million households. New Orleans, 89% of the metro New Orleans area still has Cox Cable. Almost 400,000 in Baton Rouge and 140,000 in Lafayette. Also seen in Morgan City. You can download it on the app and also on the YouTube channel as well. Mike McCarthy and the Dallas Cowboys talked yesterday about contract extension. Word is McCarthy wanted $15 million a year. Jerry was only willing to go up to 10. McCarthy is gone. McCarthy is gone from the Dallas Cowboys. Word is that he could go to the Saints or Chicago Bears. He worked in New Orleans already years ago, and that he also Chicago Bears could be a very attractive job. Now, what people are saying about New Orleans, some people are saying it's not an attractive job. Some people say no because they like the Gail Benson or the way the organization is set up. Not that Gail Benson's a pro in any of these sports things. She's not. But the way that's set up, the problem with New Orleans is the salary cap, with that kicking the can down the road mentality that Mickey Loomis has had for a long time. I do think they have some players to be a good team very quickly. We saw that in their first 2 games of the year. And the way they played Tampa Bay was tight. And the way they played Washington was tight. There were 2 playoff games that happened last night. And Washington, of course, or Sunday night. And Washington wins that game on a doink, a 3 field goal. So with that being said, I do think the Saints are not too far off. And notice that it was also without Derek Carr. A lot of people are also saying that, and coaches look at salary cap problems and they also look at rosters, but they look at quarterback big time. And I think Derek Carr has potential to be a decent quarterback. Drew Brees, no, but I think better. Go ask the Las Vegas Raiders after he left. There's no quarterback there. I still think that the Saints can work with Derek Carr. Now, everybody's going nuts at, hey, he's not going to be there next year because he won't take a pay cut. I wouldn't either in this late in my career. I'm not going to take a pay cut. And he's moving to Fresno, by the way. His family is moving to Fresno during the offseason. I don't blame him on that either. So the thing about it is he will restructure his contract, but not take a pay cut, and I don't blame him on that. Aaron Glenn being more now tied with the New York Jets. Again, he worked here in New Orleans as well. That may not be true. And prime time, Jonathan's favorite guy, looking at possibly Cowboys' job after he was looking at the Raiders. He was interested in the Raiders' job. The Raiders said absolutely not. And only Jerry Jones would be stupid enough to hire that guy because I think that guy's a big phony, and he's all about I. All about I. All right, when we talk about the playoffs coming up on Saturday's matchup, the Texans and the Chiefs ought to be a big win for the Chiefs, I think. The Chiefs are not playing on their full capacity, but I do think they're going to easily win over the Texans on Saturday. That game is at Arrowhead Stadium. Commanders will go to the Lions. Man alive. Jonathan, that's tough for me to pick on this. Right now, Jaden Daniels looks unbelievable. Everybody's going nuts over Jaden Daniels. How he's elevated the team and the coaching staff with that big win. Yeah,
Jaden Daniels changing the culture out there in Washington. Even though they called the Commanders, a lot of Redskins fans been struggling for years, for decades. The team's been so bad. Jaden Daniels finally delivers a playoff win off the doink. When it's your time, Jaden Daniels. Chris, before I let you go, you absolutely hit the nail on the head with the Saints. Not only do you give a Saints enemy in Mike Evans a free pass to get his record of 11 straight seasons with 1,000 yards, you gave him that after he's tormented you for years, started fights with Marshawn Lattimore, cheap shot at. He's an enemy of the Saints. You give up the record. Okay, no problem. Unless the Saints legitimately knock this coaching hire out of the park, either get Aaron Glenn or Joe Brady, and also draft Will Campbell in the first round with the 9th overall pick, move Trevor Penny back to the guard spot, I'm having trouble rooting for the Saints. I mean, truly, I think Derek Carr is a decent human being. He's a middle tier, bottom of the middle tier quarterback. I don't agree with Mickey Loomis that they can turn us around quickly, especially $78 million over the cap, expected to cap next year. That's ridiculous. Right. Feel bad for the coach that inherits this roster with this cap situation because it is going to be a lot of work to turn around. Do the Saints have assets to trade? Absolutely. Could they trade every draft pick they have this year for the draft next year when there is a quarterback coming out that might take your franchise to the playoffs? Absolutely. So there are moves to be made. It's going to take the right person being in charge, though. And unfortunately, I was hoping we already had the news that Mickey Loomis wasn't going to be the general manager of the Saints next year, and that doesn't look like it's going to be the case. No, it don't look like it's going to be the case at all. The Rams will take on the Eagles on Sunday. That game will be on NBC. I think the Eagles win that game easily. I think Minnesota always does what they do. They choke in the playoffs. I think the Eagles win that game over the Rams on Sunday, and I think that the Ravens at the Bills, that's going to be a tight game. I wouldn't want to bet on that game. Can you imagine betting the house on that game? Oh, no way. That's going to be a tough game. Ravens and the Bills, that's going to be tough. And Ravens could play in cold weather, so it'll be an interesting game. I think that's going to be the game of the week in playoffs right there. I wouldn't pick that one, Ravens and the Bills. We'll talk about it next week as we continue to talk sports with me, Chris Powers, in 2025. As always, thanks to Jonathan. Does a great job. Thank you, Marty. We'll see you back next week. Have a great week, everybody.
Johnson heads to the mark.